hear music in the air over my head. I hear music in the air. It's a fun one. Who am I trying to speak to through my art and music? That's something that's really important to me as an artist, sort of communicating with people. And basically with my music, I want to talk to anyone who's ever felt different or ever felt like they didn't quite belong, because I've sort of always struggled with sort of a distance between myself and a lot of other people. It's just sort of hard for me to bridge the gap sometimes between, I guess, the world in my head and the world around me. And I think that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And so I really want to explore that with my music and sort of reach out to people who sort of find a home in places other than other people. Like for me, the piano and creating music is sort of like my version of true love, I guess. I really want to talk to people who have struggled with anything, whether it's just feeling alone or whether it's a mental illness, and talking about things like LGBTQ rights is really important to me. Anyone who just felt like they have been sort of rejected by this group of society, but I really want to explore the idea that, like, why do we need to fit into bounds? Why do we need to belong in a certain place when just by being ourselves we can find other communities, we can create things, and we can create spaces for ourselves to exist and really shine in the way that we are meant to. Something that most people don't know about me, I'd say most people don't. People tend to think that I'm like on the quiet side when they meet me, but then they'll start talking to me and they'll realize that that's probably just because I'm like off in some other world. So I really, I've sort of always been really interested in like things like ghosts and like witchcraft, and not that I necessarily believe in it, but I think that it's just really interesting the way that we can like make magic seem really real in the world that we're in. I remember the first song that I ever wrote, I was just thinking about this today, was about Slender Man, oddly enough. I don't write songs about Slender Man anymore, but that's sort of where my roots were, I guess. And I started out writing a lot of fantasy stories, so I think I've translated that into kind of my whole idea about like creating another world through song, even though that might not be like the magic flying cats, etc. world that I used to write about. That's still something that I explore a lot in my writing, and I'm just really interested in like what's behind the surface of life. Like, what are people really thinking? What really drives them? Like, what makes us who we are? A lot further than just like the sides of ourselves that we show the world today. One thing I couldn't live without, this might be an obvious answer, but I really don't think I could live without a piano. I had to bring my keyboard into my dorm room like the second week. I was like, I can't live without it. But it's just really a place that I go to sort of spill out things I can't communicate in any other way. And I know I've been talking to a lot of other songwriters here, and it's such a powerful thing if you have the ability to translate what you're feeling into music. So when I sit down at the piano, it's just like, it feels like I'm like home in a way. It feels just like sort of this totally different place where I can just sort of like explain. Or when I'm on stage with a piano, it's just like this beautiful feeling, like under those lights. There's really nowhere else that I'd rather be. So yeah, I definitely couldn't live without the piano. Most of my songs start with a concept, and then I'll sit down and I'll start playing around with chords, playing around with a verse. And actually, it's strange. Usually I'll write a song in sort of like one burst. Like, it has to sort of all come together at once for me. I really believe in like inspiration, just sort of striking, and I've been really lucky to have that. So, you know, I can force myself to write a song, but it never feels quite as organic as when there's sort of this raw spark. Then again, it can always change. Like, some songs I'll write over months and months, and they'll just take a while to grow, whereas others will just kind of like bloom all of a sudden, and then they'll be right there. I'm really interested in like creating like really ambient, kind of like verging on psychedelic sounds with music, like with layering harmonies. So that's something that I'm interested in getting into when I learn more about production and things like that. That very kind of like otherworldly, shimmery sound is something that appeals to me a lot, in addition to just the regular like folk singer-songwriter vibe. So I think sort of like the merging of those two is something that I want to explore. I think kind of the piece that has sort of defined where I've been and where I've been going as a songwriter is this that piece I wrote, City Rain. I wrote it about a year ago, and it's about something that happened to me when I was in New York City. So it's been cool coming back here and seeing the rain and sort of seeing the reflection of that song and how it's sort of kind of stayed with me. These difficulties and darknesses that we might have are not necessarily all bad. We can use both the light and dark. We need both the light and dark to make our music, to make sort of texture and to add texture to life. What brought me to New York City? So many things. I'm kind of in love with this city in sort of a stereotypically wide-eyed way. But I also know that there are a lot of stories that have started here, both dark and light stories. So I'm really inspired by a lot of the other spirits that I kind of see floating around Barnett and Columbia, like the Beat Poets started here, and all of that story happened sort of right around where I am right now. And also, a lot of singers have started here that I really look up to, like starting with Billy Joel and Greenwich Village, sort of that singer-songwriter style, and that sort of really different way of approaching music and approaching life really kind of began here. So it's really amazing to sort of walk around the streets, like I walk around the streets at night and just look at the lights and imagine what other artists might have felt. One thing I found is that in the city, being here, my emotions are just kind of heightened. Like I see things in a technicolor way that I just sort of don't anywhere else in the world. It's like I've experienced some of the darkest times here, but also some of the most beautiful, and I figured, why wouldn't I want to come to a place where I could sort of experience that full spectrum of emotion and that full spectrum of feeling? So I'm really excited to see what stories come out of this place, whether they're sort of on that dark or light spectrum anywhere. I'm just really excited to see the writing that comes out. And I've already written more than I have ever before in a period of time, just in my month being here. So it seems like there's definitely some sort of electricity that's really conducive to creation.